amazing this week. It is going to get
Oh,
up to like
good.
90 degrees. I
Shut
know.
up.
It's
That
like
is
the best Mother's Day
insane.
present from Mother Nature herself ever.
Right? Oh, I'm so happy for you. Look at your dog. Just rolling around in the grass. So cute. Oh, I'm so happy
That's
for
her.
you. So, so happy for you.
That's my mom's German Shepherd.
Oh my goodness, what a cutie pie.
She's up in Alaska right now, so now he's a completely different dog when my mom's gone.
Really?
He
Like
acts way better.
rambunctious?
Way better.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because
That
when my mom's here, he's constantly protecting her, even from us.
mm,
Even like we all like we've had him since he was a puppy, but he thinks that she's deaf.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so anytime you say her name, he like barks and freaks out and like gets her attention, and she's like, okay. If any of the kids come close to her to like hug her, he like gets in between and doesn't and barks and doesn't like it.
Oh my goodness, so protective.
Super protective.
That's so sweet though.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass because it's
I'm
like
sure it's
all
annoying. Yeah.
right, we've all lived together
Yeah.
forever. Why, like,
Let
if
it
I start
go.
walking towards the bathroom, he thinks I'm going towards his room, so he'll race me down there really quick, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to the bathroom.
Oh
It's like
my
I just wanted to make
goodness.
sure I had to protect her.
Dogs are
Like we
so
beat her or
funny.
something. Like, yeah, he must
Dogs
pick
are
up on
so
her
funny.
energy a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they can't. I mean, that's what they do. They just pick up
Yeah.
on energy, you know? Except for this one's just insane. She's just out here spitting for oh, there she goes. She still does it all day long. She's
I
so
wonder
goofy.
why dogs do that sometimes.
Well, I've looked it all up and like this isn't like just to be funny, but we really do generally believe she's autistic
Oh, okay.
because there's not even it's not just this, like there's so many other things that are like so weird that she does that it just I looked it up online and it just makes sense. Like
Yeah.
we really think that she's just autistic. She's just an
Was
autistic
she
dog.
the runt by any chance?
She was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
she
that might
was.
be it. Maybe she's just,
She's
that's
a little
okay though.
special. She's a little
Yeah.
special, but she has
Makes her
such a good
more lovable.
personality. Yeah, she really is. She really is. But okay, beautiful. I'm so glad you could join today. And this is going to be a really fun one. It's a little bit more tangible than last week. Last week was very like in the mind and like kind of like sorting, like emotional and stuff. And this one's more, we're going to talk about the brain and kind of how that works and how we can make it work for us, instead of against us. Some of the stuff we kind of talked about on that workshop that I did, but we're going to be diving deep more into that. And then I have a meditation at the end where we're going to like really drop into it and like really like feel what it is that we're talking on today. And speaking of that, and I want to ask Casey this too, do you prefer to know what the call is going to be on? I just realized like I don't tell you guys what the call is going to be on before you get in here. And I'm like,
Um,
would you like to know that? Because I
it
can make that
doesn't
a
bother
thing.
me. No, no.
Okay.
It if anything, it gives me like information overload or analysis paralysis, like too much. I'm one of those. I'm rather
Mhm.
less information, just do
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Cool.
that's not
Cool.
always true, but in times like this, yeah, no, it's better to just. This is what we're talking about today.
You're going to be
Sounds
here.
great.
Yeah. Just like commit to being here and just whatever happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm
Okay.
open
I'm
to
sure Casey will
whatever.
be cool with that too. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to start with kind of where I believe that you guys are in some extent. And I believe it's an extension or just a mirror to where I am too, because I believe like attracts like, right? And this past year, I feel as if I have really woken up to and just became so much more hyper aware of what's happening internally and how deeply that affects. And I know this is like a big like concept and I feel kind of like funny saying it, but it's nearly like a spiritual awakening, right? Like this calling to like dig into this higher consciousness and this level of awareness and this call to kind of like turn inward. And I feel as if that's where you guys are as well. And I think that that's why we are here together because we're all in this kind of like understanding of there's deeper work to be done here. And in order for me to get to this next level, whatever that looks like, this next just chapter era of my life, there needs to be something deeper done. There's only so much left that I can do that's on the surface, right? And so it's kind of opening our eyes up to these things that need to be healed within us. And I think that that's kind of, yeah, like why we're all here right now together, because we're all kind of in this collective feeling of there's more. We need to go deeper. We need to dive in to these like deeper parts of ourselves. And so one of those, which brings me to kind of why, which is funny that I like start with that because it's very like metaphysical, and now we're going to talk about the brain, but it's all going to like really tie in together. So I'm going to kind of start with why it is so damn hard to change. And some of this you may know, and some of it may be new information, but either way, one of the best ways to learn is through repetition, right? Even if you heard it before, continuing to hear it, the more and more you hear it, the more likely you are to let it integrate. Because I know I've heard, at least for how I learn things, I have to hear things a bunch of times. Like a bunch of times before, like I'm not one of those people who can just like pick up on something and get it and like roll with it and like be okay. And I think you're kind of similar to me in that way of like, okay, I need to hear it and let me hear it again. Okay, like now this is making sense. So, which is why I was like at first a little hesitant to talk on this, because all of this stuff, it's kind of stuff we've heard, or maybe you have it, I don't know, but it's kind of this stuff that's kind of known. And so I was like, but I think it's really important that we really continue to dive into it, because this stuff, it's really, really important in understanding. Because if we don't know why we're doing something, we're less likely to do it, right? Like we need to understand the deeper reasoning, what is actually happening for us to begin to really do the work to make this stuff work, right? And I think we've been led to believe, I know I have, and I'm sure you all can relate to the fact of, we've been led to believe that in order to make change, it has to be very surface level. Like we need more discipline. We need more knowledge. We need more courage. We need all of these things because we're not just enough as we are. We need something more. We need to change something surface level about ourselves in order to get that thing. Right? I mean, I know from a business perspective, okay, we need a better strategy. We need this, we need that, we need more clients, whatever. And there's a time and a place for that. But it's actually just so much deeper. And I realized this when I, was coaching and I had these conversations with women, and I realized that their issues are just so much more than that. And the same thing goes for us, because our brains aren't designed to change. Like they're not designed to change. And that's where the real struggle is when we're trying to change on a conscious level, when there's actually so much going on in the subconscious. Our life is a reflection of our subconscious, and our subconscious is on autopilot, right? Like we live our day through autopilot. So how are we supposed to create change when our subconscious wants something completely different and is dealing with so many deeper things that we haven't even like scratched the surface on yet, right? So our subconscious is a primitive part of our brain. Our subconscious does like so many things, but it's a primitive part. And so it has picked up on ways to survive and through our life, and it's picked up these ways through our childhood and through our upbringing. And it's created a bunch of trauma responses to life. Right? So we have the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So the fight, which is, I think we're all very aware of, when we get triggered and we just want to lash out and we just get angry, or a client isn't doing what we want them to do. And we're just like, oh, like, why don't you listen to me? And like, we put the blame there, or they say someone says we're doing something wrong. And we just automatically just get so defensive. Right? Or the flight, which is the anxiety, the panic. We're constantly in like the state of panic and just like waiting for something to go wrong. A big bill comes out and it's just pure panic. I know that I lived up until a couple months ago, every single day I woke up literally in panic. the first thought on my mind was money. It was just panic, 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 panic. And I was just living in this state to a point that when I finally understood it and was able to release it, I was still looking for that each morning. Like I was like waiting for the panic. I literally taught my body, this is my normal. Like this is how we respond now. Like this is how it's supposed to be. This is my baseline. Like this feeling of panic, this survival mode. And then we have the freeze, which is the procrastination. Procrastination is literally a trauma response. We're shutting down because we're just so overstimulated by things that are going on, and we don't have the energy to put forth to it. So we just shut down completely, or we numb out. We numb out on Netflix. We numb out on, scrolling on our phones, whatever. And then the fawn, which is like the people pleasing and the lack of boundaries. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to say yes just because I don't want to cause trouble. Right. And the thing is, like, all these trauma responses, sometimes we look back on them and like the procrastination, or, we're angry when we look back with such shame around it of like, why did I respond that way? Why am I acting this way? Why? And the truth is that's just our subconscious trying to protect us, right? Because that is the main job, is trying to protect us. But the thing is, we're not responsible for that trauma response, right? Something happened in our life, in our upbringing, in our childhood. We had a very significant emotional event which created this trauma response. So we're not responsible for that, right? So we can work to release that shame, but it is our responsibility to be able to move through it and to overcome these trauma responses, because we can't create in survival mode. We can't create something new if we are always in panic, if we are always in fight or flight or, fawn. Like we can't bring in good things, right? We can't bring in abundance if we're constantly panicking about money. It just doesn't work that way. And on some level, we think that it does, right? Like we think that if we just freak out enough, it'll just come in somehow. That at least gives us some sense of control. Like if I can just really just freak out about it now, then that must mean it's going to help me in some way. Like on some level, like we truly believe that, right? And like, that's why we do it, which is just so interesting to me. But subconscious is also where all of our beliefs and our identity is located. So who you believe that you are is located in the subconscious. And we are going to consistently, without knowing to us, we are going to find evidence to support our identities to be true, right? And so all of our identities, the majority of them, have been created from childhood also. So if you had really emotionally dismissive, just invalidating parents, you may grow up, this is my story, you may grow up thinking that emotions are bad. Like crying is bad. Crying makes you weak. Like this is my belief system. And so I identified as somebody that I'm unemotional. I'm this, I'm that, when really I'm the most emotional person alive. Like I'm just a big ball of gush, but like I wasn't allowed to be that person. And so I put that part of me locked away in a closet because I learned that I wasn't loved that way. So that is who I showed up as for 2.5 decades, was an unemotional person, right? Like if you had a demanding parent who never thought what you did was good enough, nothing was ever enough, no matter what you did, there was always something, right? Then we probably strive for perfectionism now, or we're over an achiever, or nothing we feel, so we end up becoming that over demanding parent to ourselves, right? Like now I have to, I shame myself when I don't do enough. We honor our parents in that way. If you were the one who was always putting everyone first and people like applauded you for it, right? You may now probably suffer from people pleasing, right? So this is the thing that we have to work through and identify, is what is me and what is not me. And I think that's really, really important. Like what was conditioned for me to believe about myself that is no longer true. And I think that that's a beautiful journal prompt for us to do. And let me bring up my chat. Okay. Suffer quietly. My mom was always saying that to me. Oh, suffer quietly. We can't ask for help. That is so, so hard. And yes, and this is now probably that's something that lingers in your mind when you're hurting. I can't ask for help. I can't do that. I have to just, this is mine. This is just mine to hold. And we weren't meant to live that way, right? We're like creatures who need connection. Like we're not supposed to do things on our own. And I'm sorry that you experienced that, because that's so hard. And I hope that we're slowly coming to realize, if you haven't already, that you don't have to suffer in silence, right? You do not. You're allowed to share. You're allowed to share your emotions, and the emotions are human, our humanness. Like we're denying our innate humanness by suffering quietly, right? Our subconscious is also where we find our comfort zones too. Like this is, again, our subconscious just wants to keep us safe. Like that's a job. So anything that disrupts that safety, whoa, like red X, like we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. And it doesn't matter how good we think it is for us. It doesn't matter. If our subconscious, if it's uncomfortable to our subconscious, this is where self-sabotage comes in, right? Like we wonder why we're self-sabotaging and we don't really understand it, but it's because we're stepping into someone new. And in this stepping into someone new, we are saying death to that part of us, to that old part of us. And that old part of us doesn't want to die, right? Like that is where we're comfortable. That is where, we thrive. Thrive is in this kind of area. And so again, we can't create something new if we're living in this constant survival mode and living on constant autopilot, right? So we have the only thing that separates us from animals, really, because we have a subconscious, which is what animals are like purely subconscious. They're just surviving. Like they're just out here surviving, living, whatever. We have the prefrontal cortex. So this is like our consciousness. Like this is where we set goals, like all this like masculine energy, like setting goals and completing tasks and making decisions and like yada, 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 yada. This is all conscious. So like when we set goals for ourselves and then we wonder why we don't reach them, right? We set these goals consciously, but subconsciously it doesn't align, because subconsciously, if we're going on autopilot 90% of the day, then how does that, if we're on autopilot 90% of the day and we actually don't have a belief that we're that kind of person, like for example, my prefrontal cortex wants to make 6 figures, right? But if I don't believe that, like internally, believe that that's for me, believe that I'm capable of that, doesn't matter how much I want it consciously, subconsciously, it doesn't believe it. So since I'm on autopilot so often, 90% of the day, I'm going to act as if this person that doesn't believe in it, right? And we don't realize that we're doing that. And so really the magic is, and what we're working towards doing here is getting into this subconscious and rewiring that. That way, as we're moving throughout the day unconsciously, we're actually moving in service to ourselves. Because right now, if we don't have what we want, there's something in this subconscious that's blocking it. There's something in the subconscious that says, nope, we can't have that yet. We're not there yet. And so I'm going to block you, and I'm going to block you, and I'm going to block you until we rewire it, until we, on a subconscious level, believe it's for us. And the practice that we're going to be doing is literally, and I was going to talk about this later, but since it's just coming up, and my intention for this was, it was a lot of information, but I'm just going to allow myself to flow and just be what it is. So I'm rolling with that right now. So I have this practice, and we're going to be doing it at the end. It's the meditation that I do. And I've been doing it almost just about every single day for the past couple months. Oh, and it's 222. Look at that. And I've been doing it almost every single day. And as I was driving in my car this morning on my way to the gym, I was just kind of like thinking about it. And I finally realized, so the meditation is really about visualizing it at an emotional level, feeling the feelings you would have that you want to have, right? Like just visualizing your future and letting the emotions of that visualization really land, right? And I was driving and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, whoa, I finally realized that what I've been manifesting in that meditation is here. It, like literally just this morning, it hit me, because what I had been dreaming of and like trying to like bring in was just this level of alignment within my business. Like just this level of, this feels good and this feels really, really right. And so each morning I would just sit and feel what that would feel like, that feeling of freedom, that feeling of alignment, that feeling of like, oh, like I'm on to something, like this is so good. And I literally was driving to the gym this morning. I'm like, holy shit, I'm here. Does it look like, am I creating all this, big financial abundance yet? No, but like I'm here, exactly, what I wanted, which was this internal feeling. And that's what I kind of posted about today on my Instagram too. So I don't know if you saw it, Leanne, but it's freedom's an internal job, right? Like it's an internal job. It doesn't matter how much money I make, but if I'm not internally feeling free, then that money, let's say I make $100,000, but I don't feel internally free. Now I'm terrified of losing it. Now I'm terrified of, like someone stealing it, going away, blah, blah, blah. Like there's no freedom in that. Freedom is, internal. And so by dropping into these feelings often and allowing yourself to feel it, the feelings of freedom, and starting from the inside and allowing that to be there first, the freedom then comes, externally. And I finally witnessed that, like in that sense. And I'm like, holy shit. And I just thought that was a beautiful thing. And I was so excited when I just like started bawling, crying when I realized it. I'm like, oh my God. Right. Okay. Back to my notes. But okay. So in our subconscious is also where our intuition lies. Right. And unfortunately, through just society and the school system and just everything, we have been taught to lead a life in a very logical and realistic way, right? We have been taught that we have to lead with logic. We have to go to school and we have to go to college and we have to get a good job and yada, 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 yada. We have to want certain things. And this was a big one for me, is I just realized that a lot of things that I've been told to want aren't actually what I want, what my intuition wants. And that's something that, takes time to really kind of like dissect, but the intuition is all knowing. Like she doesn't need logic. She doesn't need reason to make decisions. Like, and I'm calling it a she, mine's a she. I don't know if you want to have yours take on a persona, but I say she. She is in tune and she is just aligned and she just gets it. And making decisions through your intuition, I think sometimes we think that if it's an intuitive decision, it won't feel scary or it won't feel, uncomfortable, but it's quite the opposite. Intuitive decisions are always going to feel very scary and uncomfortable, because that means that you're leading with something completely different. Like you're becoming someone else through that intuitive choice. And that's uncomfortable, right? Because that means you're getting out of your comfort zone. That means you're doing something different. That means death to the ego. And again, the ego doesn't want to die. But when we're moving from intuition, it'll be an all knowing, like it'll be like this feeling of like excitement and like, but there's also going to be fear there. Like it's going to be a bunch of different emotions. Sometimes it'll just be high vibe all around, but a lot of the time, like an intuition, like intuitive decision, they're fucking scary, because that means that we're stepping into another level here. That means that, this choice that we're making is completely different than who we identify as subconsciously. Right. So where was I? So knowing something is wrong for you, but you stay because it makes logical sense. Okay. I don't know what I wrote there. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. But so the problem is we've been taught, as well as we constantly try to appease our ego. We lead from this very egoic place. Again, we want things that we're told we're supposed to want. I'm sure, Leanne, you can relate. We're supposed to all want to build this big, thriving, multiple 7-figure business. Like there's nothing else we should want. Like that's just what everybody promotes. That's what everybody wants. That's just what we're supposed to want. And the truth is sometimes that's not what we want, or at least not right now, but we're led to believe that that's what we're supposed to want. Right. And so I heard this quote and I posted about this and it just sent me spiraling. And it said, if your happiest life didn't look impressive by society's standards, would you still want it? Right. And I think that's something really important just to ponder. Like, what am I doing for just approval of society? Or what am I doing just for approval of my partner or, whoever, Instagram? Like, what is for me? What am I doing that actually feels intuitively aligned for me? Because I think that your happiest life, I don't think, like, I know your happiest life comes from what intuitively feels right for you. And that's never going to be found when we're leading from this place of ego, of this is what I'm supposed to want. And that's, why a lot of people who have all these big businesses just burn it to the ground, because they're like, this actually isn't what I wanted. I was making all this money and I realized that I was just doing it because that's what I was supposed to do. Right. And I saw myself getting to that point and then I realized, I'm like, this is just absolutely terrible. I hate everything about this. I gotta go. And thankfully I've never been afraid to burn shit to the ground. So my husband wasn't happy about it, but he was like, he probably should have did that more gracefully. I'm like, nope, I'm done. But so also with the ego, we're constantly reaching outside of us for things to make us feel more complete. This is what I posted on today, or more success, or make us feel good enough. So we're reaching for those likes to make us feel validated. We're reaching for money to make us feel successful. We're reaching for more compliments to make us feel enough. Right. And again, no amount of external validation, no amount of external reaching can bring you the internal validation, the internal wholeness, the inner completeness that you want. Not even just from the perspective of just emotion, but from an energetic standpoint. Because energetically, if we're saying that I need this in order to feel complete, we're setting the precedent for never feeling complete because we're looking for it outside of ourselves, or we're never going to get it because we're coming from this place of lack, right? Like vibrationally, energetically, that just doesn't match up. If I'm constantly stressed about money and I'm scared to check my bank account and I'm freaking out every time I lose $100 or $200, we're saying that I don't have enough right now. I am in complete lack. And so how am I supposed to attract, more abundance if that's the case? Was the biggest light bulb moment for me was when I was, fitness coaching, which I'm sure you've seen, Leanne, of, okay, when I change my body, then I'll feel confident, right? And to some extent, yeah, change your body does make you feel like a level of confidence, but we always want that next thing. Like, it's like never actually good enough. Like, I always need something else. There's always something else. There's always something else, right? And I've seen this like a lot with like obese people where they lose the weight and they still see themselves as obese, right? Because nothing actually changed internally. It was just an external change. And so when we try to create from this hoping and this wishing and this praying and this, like, I desire this, right? We're actually saying that like we don't have it. And that is not the state that produces it. And this is like, that just like threw me on my head this past year. I was just like, holy crap. And that's why, I made a post around like, I literally had to go broke. Like I literally was negative $100 in my bank account before the shit hit me. And I'm like, I really hope that we learn, the collective learns so much faster than I did, because that's really what it took for me to literally see, I'm like, something is so off here. Like I just lose all of my money. Like, and I'm always freaking out no matter how much I have. Like that's where the light bulb went off. And so in order to bring in divine, because that's what this is, it's literally becoming and bringing in divine creation. It's being the creator. We have to act like the creator, because it's literally neuroscience shows that if you change your brain to look as if you have the thing that you want, it is on its way. Like this isn't like woo-woo magic stuff anymore. I mean, it is like magic, I guess, in a way, but like this isn't woo-woo anymore. Like this is like proven science time and time and time and time again. But again, we're still kind of like stuck in this society of thinking that everything has to, we have to do everything strategically in a very masculine energy before we can see the results of the things that we want. And it's just not true. To an extent, some things, yes, but as a whole, it's not true. So if our brain or our body says that we already have it, then it will eventually show up in our physical reality. But also we have to get the subconscious on board, because we can, again, think about it all day. Okay, I'm thinking about winning $1 million. Like, and we just like, oh, it's supposed to show up now, right? Like, it doesn't actually work like that. Like, it has to literally be a genetic change, of a cellular change. That is how it happens. And that happens through repetition. We can't just sit in the meditation one time, a manifestation meditation, and just expect, it all to flow in. Because the truth is, like, if we truly believed in it, like if we believed, and I think I said this on the workshop call, if we really believed in this concept, like really, like to our bones, believe that we were the creators, we would never miss a day of like doing this kind of work. But there's something subconsciously that is questioning. There's something subconsciously that says, could this really be true? And because of that, it's almost like, a blockage of like, okay, I don't actually believe it, but I'm like, try to believe it. And like, we'll see what happens. It's like this half in kind of like, if it shows up, then I'll believe it. Right. And again, that's the old model. Like, we have to believe something until we see it. And that's not actually how it's going to manifest. We have to believe in it. We have to know it's on its way. And that's when it comes up. So the question is, how would you live your life? How would you show up on a daily basis if you knew without a shadow of a doubt your dreams and your desires were already underway? Like, how would you show up? Because that's really the gist of it. Like, that's how we have to show up. If we want those things, if we have to act as if they're on their way. My prayers have already been answered. It's coming. So my job now is just to move in alignment and follow my intuition and what's going to get me there. I don't know how it's going to unfold, but I do trust that they're on their way. Right? Because if we knew how it was all going to unfold, and this might be like a little bit of a tangent, but like if we knew how it was all going to unfold, that would mean that we aren't anyone different. That would mean that if we knew how, I'm trying to like articulate this. If we knew how it was all going to unfold, then that would mean it's not anything new to us, right? We're constantly evolving. And so if I knew everything, how it was all going to unfold right here, right now, that means I should already have it, basically, because that means I'm in that present like vibration, energetic state to be able to receive those things. But we're constantly evolving. And so we don't know how it's going to evolve because we're not that person yet. And if we were that person, we would have those things, right? I don't know if I articulated that the way I wanted it to. It's here, but I hope I got it out right. But so if you knew that it was already yours, how would that change things? And that's kind of how one of the journal prompts I'm going to, leave you with before we're going to jump into the meditation. But if you knew, because the truth is, if we knew we were the creators, that we had literally the ability to really do it, we would be doing it every day. We wouldn't skip a day. We wouldn't skip it. And it took Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but like it took him saying that, in a video for me to like really get that. I'm like, wow, I don't do it every day because there is a level of me that like doesn't believe that I can do that. And so now that, I've done it and then I've seen it, now I'm like, oh, now I'm like a deep believer, So if I can, let me tell you, if I can, you can. And I think that's a really important thing too, is looking for evidence from other people. Cause I think it's really easy to look for evidence as to why we can't do something. And I think one of my favorite things to do is to look out and seek out people who have done it for this proof. Cause a lot of times it's so hard to believe in something that you can't see for yourself yet. Like it's so hard. I think one of the hardest things about just like a business or starting like a fitness journey or just doing anything is believing in it before you have proof that you can believe in it yet, And I think you can probably relate to that a lot because starting a business is really, really hard. I know Casey can, relate to this too. Like having to believe in something when there's really just no proof that it's all going to be okay. But like, you just have to believe in it anyway. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. And that's what this is about. Like we can't see what's going to happen. We know what we want, We don't know how it's going to unfold, but we can believe that it's available and it is possible, right? So, oh, and the river of change. So that's raising kids, right? I am sure it's just a trust fall. Like that's really what this all is. It's a freaking trust fall. Like I trust that it's all just, we're going to figure this shit out. And so there's something called the river of change. Dr. Joe Dispenza coined this, but this is kind of like where people find themselves, right? There's this river and they step foot into the river. They're like, okay, I'm ready to change. They step foot, but then the river starts flowing and rocks start coming and they start freaking out. And this is the ego saying, nope, that's not you. That's not you. It's not safe to cross. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right. And so the people who find success are the people who see that and they continue to move through the river anyways. They can't see the end. They don't see where the end is, but they continue to move forward and move forward and move forward. But many people, the majority of people, they start feeling this crazy current and they're like, okay, I'm out. And they go right back to where they started. Right. And so what we're doing here is continuing to move forward despite what this ego says, despite what our belief in ourselves are, despite the shit that we're trying to work through on the day-to-day, having our vision in mind and continuing to move forward to that vision because we deeply believe that it's already ours. Right? Okay. So we're going to go into the meditation. So get cozy, do what you got to do to get cozy. So with this meditation, I'm only going to kind of like go in, speak to you in just a couple parts. It's not going to be a whole walkthrough like last time. I'm going to have a couple prompts to kind of get you seeing what I want you to see, but it's going to be very broad. I'm not going to tell you to like visualize a specific thing. We're just going to drop in together, really the intention. Oh, I forgot to set intentions at the beginning of this call. That's what I meant to do. The really intention, we'll set an intention before this meditation. The intention really is just allowing yourself to really feel what emotions you will feel once you get things that you want. Like once you accomplish the things you want to accomplish, like whatever those are, that's really the intention of this, is to like really just like allow ourselves, like putting fear aside, the doubt aside, the judgment aside, like just allowing ourselves to just be fully immersed in this feeling. Okay. So just about like 10 minutes or so. Start small with this. I'm going to share my music. He's probably going to be all up in your face. Okay. You have headphones in, right? Okay. Does that sound good? Is that loud enough? Okay. All right. So we're going to take the first few breaths and just get grounded. So let's just take a deep inhale in. Audible exhale out. Another deep inhale in. An audible exhale out. Another deep inhale in. And exhale out. Dropping your shoulders. Relaxing your hips and your thighs and your knees. Dropping your weight deep into the ground below you. Now I want you to start moving into the future, holding in mind a certain goal, a certain life, something that you deeply, deeply desire. And now I want you, with every cell of your body, from your head to your toes, allow yourself to feel emotionally what it would feel like to have that thing, to have that life. Instruct your body to feel this emotion deep, deep within. And if your mind wanders, just gently bring it back. There's no pressure here. No expectations here. Just be with the emotion. Let your body feel the joy and the freedom of this new life. There is a future reality where all your prayers are answered. where every need is met. It is available to you. Allow yourself to feel into this new life. If you allow your body to feel it, to feel these emotions, your brain can't tell the difference of what is real and what is thought. But the more you think, the more you feel, the more likely it is to become. Continue to stay in these emotions, releasing yourself from your past self, from the past doubt, past judgment. Lift yourself up and begin to feel into this new life, into the joy, into the abundance. One last deep inhale in, breathing it all up to the top. And slowly release it all out into the field. One more deep inhale in. And release. And slowly, whenever you're ready, go ahead and come back. How was that? You can come off mute. Were you able to like drop in and to feel it?
Yes. And
Okay.
I think so. But it's also one of those things, again, like it's hard to know what something feels like if you haven't had it.
Okay. So this is something, and I realized that too, and I meant to say this before. This is one of those things that will take repetition. if you continue to come into this practice, and this is something you can do for a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, right? Just practicing, allowing yourself to like feel it. So for me, I like to like visualize it all happening, like a specific thing. Like, so for example, one of my things is just looking at my husband being like, I did it. Like I did it, like hit this certain milestone, and just him giving me a hug. And like that just thought of the embrace and the feeling of like pride and like, just like I did, like when I can really, everyone's brains work differently. So yours might be like just a sensing, but for me, I can only speak for myself. When I think of a future event and then allow myself to like picture the emotion that's tied to it and get there, that kind of helps me kind of bridge that gap. Because does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But it was still
Mhm.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of that visualization, like visualizing what would it look like, and then
Okay.
in turn, what would
Perfect.
that looking at that, what does that feel like looking at that?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Okay. Yes. This is just one of those things. Great start. Perfect. So this is just one of those things. Definitely come back to it, and slowly it'll start to feel like more and more and more integrated. And it'll be easier for you to kind of like drop in and feel those emotions. And do you understand also like, again, why we're doing it? I always like to like really make sure like we understand why, because again, I'm just the type of person that's just like, if I don't know why I'm doing it, the odds of me continuing to do it like are just so slim,
Yeah,
but it does
I think
all
so. Yeah.
make
Yep,
sense
it
to
makes
you.
sense. Yeah, that you have to, like you said, you have to, if you don't believe the front, like you said, you can't just win the lottery. Like
Yeah.
no matter how hard you believe in something, it doesn't just magically appear. Your
Mm-hmm.
subconscious has to believe that as well. And you have to believe
Mm-hmm.
that, as you're saying, by like doing it over and over and visualizing that and that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yes. The emotion tied to it, that's the catalyst. Like when we can bring in that deep emotion, because that's how beliefs are built, right? If you think about any belief that you have, it was triggered by some sort of emotional event, right? Like any belief, like there's some sort of like emotion tied to it. And so a lot of times, like with affirmations, also just speaking of emotions, a lot of things that like we believe about ourselves, we believe them because of something emotional that happened to our life. So the only way that we can kind of rewire these beliefs is pairing them with a deep emotion. And that's how it really like that's how our brain begins to really remember is, through these emotions. And that's how it starts to build these new connections and all the neuroplasticity stuff, that's how that all rewires is through repetition and through emotion and through intention, like understanding like the path and as to why we're doing it. Like that's check. Like that's, what we're trying to work through. And that was the missing piece of me for so long. And that's why I really wanted to bring this to you guys today, because I think it's so important is having the vision in mind and continuing to come back to it and building that internal belief and, feeling those emotions around it, because it's just, yeah, that was life-changing for me. But
I love
do-
how, so can I share for a second?
yeah, of course. We have all the time.
I love how so far each week, like not even knowing what the subject was, the topic or what's going to be brought to the table, it has reflected on to something else that
Okay.
was resonating this week. So like
Oh, love that.
last week we had mentioned I think it was the visualization, but my meditation app was just like reinforcing it. I was like, we were just talking about that, but it only scratched, it only like kind of like a scratch and sniff. Whereas, did I freeze? Okay, there
A
we go.
little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay.
You're good.
Whereas with you, like we actually like baked the cake kind of thing.
Love that. Love that.
And then again, here with this, like what you're talking about, ironically, my precision nutrition, our daily task this week is to do a 5-minute body scan, or just like a 5-minute scan on how your feelings and your emotions. But what you're saying, I can take that to the next level by not only doing the body scan and being present and appreciate where I am now, building on last week, but then taking that last 2 minutes or whatever, but envisioning and believing those future things.
Ah, Goosebumps. I love that so much. That's perfect. So
Yeah.
synchronistic. I love when that happens, when like,
And it's just, yeah, it's just the world bringing it. Like, it's just, your stuff is perfect timing without you even like, it's just, it's all meant to be, and it's all aligning,
I
which is right.
know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. My day is made, Leanne. I love that so, 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 so much. And Casey, I know you're watching the replay, but I hope you got as much out of this as me and Leanne did today.
Yeah, for sure.
But beautiful. Okay. That makes me so happy. So how are you feeling? Do you have any questions about anything? Because I have time today.
No.
So you feel good?
No, I'm feeling really good. And I do have to admit that between, like I'm on, I don't know how many days, I've done 10 lessons in my headspace, but then also the 2 weeks or I guess a week and a half of this. But I am feeling more present. And like there is, when I'm making my today to-do list, I'm like, there's less on my list. Like I feel like I'm forgetting something. Like I should be putting more on it, but I'm like, I'm super content with these things that are on here, but I'm feeling drawn. I'm like, there's so much more that you need to get done today. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here and I'm okay with that.
Do you know what that
So,
voice is?
no.
So that's just the ego, right?
Okay.
That's just the ego perking up and saying, hey, you need to be doing more because that is where we're safe, right? Because you've always been the fill the plate, fill the plate, fill the plate. And so the ego is saying that's what you're supposed to be doing right now. But intuitively, which I love, because you're dropping in and you're like, wait, no, I feel content with this. That's your intuition saying, we're okay. We're good. This is your next era, Leanne. This is beautiful. This is like a new level for you. And I know it sounds so funny sometimes of like, how is doing more not, like beneficial.
Oh yeah, no. But we tell that to our clients all the time.
I was literally going to say that.
More is not better. More is not better. But here I am putting, if there's 20 lines on my to-do list, I am putting 20 things down. Like I will find 20 things.
So I think this is a beautiful way for you to really relate to your clients in that way too. Of like, I get you because I feel the same way about this, like it's all contextually, like it's all the same thing. We feel our ego feels as if it needs to do so much more in order to get the result. But in reality, if we step back, we draw back, we're going to find so much more. We're going to get so much more benefit from that. So I love, 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 love that you're like witnessing that in yourself and listening to the intuition. That's beautiful. Definitely. Love that for you.
I am very, very happy that I am here with you and that I chose to do this. And I'm happy right where I'm at right now. And I'm looking forward to all the things even more. And then I'm trying not to already think about the ending.
We got 6 more weeks, girlfriend. Don't you worry.
I know. It's kind of like, remember when we had Leslie every week? And it was like something that we just looked forward to all the time. And then when we were starting to get towards the end of our time, we were like, this is the thing I'm going to miss the most.
Right? I know. Oh, good. I'm so glad you think that. That was just, oh, that just made me so happy. Thank you for that. I didn't realize my microphone is literally taking up my whole thing today. It's like very aggressive.
You're
so
okay.
aggressive, but okay. Beautiful. I'm so glad. So tomorrow, I know I didn't really like set the stage for that or anything, but so if there's anything that one, you feel safe enough to share, but it's really a place for me to just help you work through whatever is coming up for you right now. So I think Casey will be there too. So it'll probably just like be split like 30 minutes, even that much. Like I'm not like set on sitting here for a whole hour. We can sit more than that. Like it's really just whatever is needed for that day. So if you want to maybe kind of sit on that and think if there's anything that you feel that you want to work through, it's literally can be anything. Any sort of like inner chaos or just, questions, or if you don't even so for me, I have found that I sometimes don't have a question. Sometimes I just need to like dump out my thoughts. And then in that dumping, a question is usually formed. So that's kind of how I operate in these kind of like rooms. So if you're the same, feel free. It doesn't have to be a specific question. But just whatever you feel comfortable enough, if so, to bring out, to talk about, it's yours. The floor is yours. Okay.
Okay.
All righty. So
Okay.
thank you so much for showing up
Thank
with me.
you.
You literally made my day. Thank you so
Yay.
much for being present and being here. And I will see you tomorrow morning. And you too,
Yes.
Casey.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I hope Casey, was she feeling good or wasn't feeling good? Something
No,
just
she had
came up?
work.
Okay.
She works, her job's very time consuming.
Yeah. Okay.
She works her little booty off, but yes.
Oh, well, hopefully she
hope-
got some time to have some downtime as well.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
But okay, perfect. I'll
Okay.
see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, bye.